Well, hello guys. Good morning. It's a pretty good day today, the day after the election, right? Which, by the way, I'm gonna admit, it actually did shock me. It showed me that America still has a backbone, and we're definitely standing up. So, definitely was a good outcome. It was up late last night, actually, just kind of watching it, keeping an eye on it. So, but anyway, cool stuff on the main channel, right? Did a video on that Rossi Model 62, that pump action 22 rifle. I'm actually not a rifle person. I'm not a big rifle guy. I never really got into all that, mounting scopes and tinkering around with that and looking and shooting. And I actually find shooting handguns long distance more fun because it's to me it's more rewarding when you can stretch that thing out there. I remember when I bought the Model 29 with the 8 3/8 inch barrel. When I first got that, I actually took it out to the range out here, and I remember shooting a guy's steel plate. I think it was like 120 yards out there. It was an 8-inch plate he had. He was shooting it out with a Ruger Mini 14 with a scope. I actually wound up hitting that plate a number of times with that gun. And I'm not using no sights or nothing, scopes or anything, just the iron sights. A lot of that kind of stuff made me a believer when I saw the late great Bob Munden doing stuff like that. Bob Munden would sit there, set an egg out at 200 yards and shoot it with a Smith & Wesson J-frame snubby. Yeah, so that kind of stuff just makes you a believer in that. So I enjoy doing that. But yes, I don't have too many rifles. So I got that Rossi's Model 62, which is a really cool classic rifle. It's a lot of fun, and I gotta admit, I know people that would not have any attraction to them because it's not that tactical rifle, which for me, I really don't have much interest in that stuff. It's just, even early on, you scroll through the catalog of almost 600 videos on my channel on Batjack JW, and you'll see pretty much all of what kind of guns I like. My personal guns are all collectibles. They're all revolvers, old school stuff, wood and steel. So in fact, if you caught that hangout video, it's actually most of you probably should have watched it or probably seen it already. It kind of went up. I wanted it to be able to catch for the most part at nighttime for all of you watching, so you can sit down and have a snack or two or something. It actually was quite a long video that Cody and I did, but yeah, he was just missing in action for a while there, and where was he? What had happened to him? But yeah, I remember calling him up and talking to him about building the glove, and he was contemplating. He said, I might need to go to the hospital. Something's wrong with my hand. It really is sore. And I said, well, yeah, you probably need to go to the hospital. Boom! It was like he just disappeared. It was like, wow, where'd he go? And it turned out, yeah, he had staph infection in his hand, and then he got hit with the flu. I didn't know he actually got pneumonia. I was like, man, you get pneumonia, that's not something to mess around with, So I think really, in his case, he just got nailed just because the antibiotics and trying to fight that infection, it really wore his immune system down, and it really leaves you open for any other kind of detrimental viruses that could really put you out of commission for good. And he was. There was definitely a good amount of time there where obviously you don't want to really get near people because you start spreading the staph infection to everybody, so that's not a good thing. So yeah, anyway, catching the tail end of work here, trying to it's been a slow day. There was a couple moments here at work where it was busy, but not busy in the sense of like good sales. I wish the sales would have been busy, just as busy as the people were swarming in. So today was one of those days where it was kind of like when one person came in, like two more followed, kind of a thing. It was never just like really one person at a time. It was always kind of a bunch. So just got a new catalog in for the store. I can't. Sporting Goods. Zerders. I guess that's how you say they're. Xanders, man, they got to work on that printing. Printing just looks terrible. Wow, looks like the Remington Firearm Company has got a 1911 Commander size out. I used to actually own a Remington 1911. That was the first 1911 I ever bought, the R1. To be all honest, I bought just the GI model. I was not impressed with it. It just didn't have. It just really, I wound up getting rid of it. But although when I did, Cody's actually got it. I did change out a bunch of parts in it, so it turned into a much better gun than it really was starting with. So. Let's see. Yeah, I've got some neat stuff, but again, I kind of flip through these things, and I wind up just trying to find something. I'll tell you what's neat right there. That is neat. Now, give me one of those. Speaking of rifles, I don't know if you can see that. That is a reproduction of the Henry. That's really neat. Henry 4570. I think I'll take mine in 45 Colts if you don't mind. Oh, Navy Arms Company. I've never heard of them. They got a nice awareness. $2,000 for that thing. Nice little lever action they got there. Wow. Not too much other stuff. Yeah, that's the rest of that's ammunition. Can't get that out here. Can't order that, but yeah, not bad. That was red hot. That is the 1/2-inch pipe. One to kind of look at I just started thinking about like all this stuff that I got that really was just free. The pipe, this block of steel that I've always used that as an anvil. I've had that forever. That's something I'll hang on to because you really don't see stuff like this. At least I don't. I haven't found anything like that. Nice block of hard steel to hammer things on. This torch right here, including one bottle, which I've replaced that since I've had it, but this torch, this person just came into the shop one day and left it, so I took it free. So I've actually done, by talking to Cody yesterday, I did learn something, and I learned something about the flux, which I did not know. Which see, it held up pretty good in comparison to yesterday's video where it just pretty much came right off. That's the broken blade and resolder. What I learned from Cody is if you heat up this flux till it's pretty much black or dark, it doesn't work. It loses what it needs to work with. So here I just followed kind of his instructions and just kind of did it to where it was bubbling. Put the solder down because it's thin. Torch melts it. Went right in where it needs to go. So I learned something about that. Those of you that I know, some of you that are watching are used to be a plumber, so I did not know this, and I'm learning. It's not in focus, but anyway, yeah, there it is. So that's the broken and resoldered blade. Here's the tools, everything I'm using. That's the soldering paste I'm using, the Flux water soluble, because actually you guys told me to use that, which is working really well, instead of having to fight trying to get that stuff off. The electrical soldering right there, working really well and a lot less expensive for a lot more. Sharpie marker, of course. Galvanized pipe. This is a 1/2 inch, 2 ends. Also using the 3/4 inch pipe. Some jeweler's pliers. These are flat and have no teeth on the inside. My plastic hammer, which I've already had. Brass pipe cutter. Shears, tin snips. Mind you, most of this stuff I've already had, like the pliers, the hammer, the file, you know, all that stuff I've already had. Here's my muriatic acid. This is supposed to turn into like a gun bluing. We'll see. You guys remember that from a vlog or so. Camera's having a really hard time focusing. There we go. Of course, my free torch. Yep. That little top fixture here that you just attach to the green propane tanks, that was free. Guy just left it at the shop, gave it to the shop. He's like, here. So I took it. Okay, and that's going to be it. Back here at the original old corner where we usually do these outros and whatnot. So yeah, alongside the Duke, always good to have the Duke. So what I'm kind of working on now is actually trying to recreate possibly something very similar. Here's the NECA glove I have, the reproduction of the original glove, and here you can see even NECA had done the blade break. There's the snap, and then it resoldered on. That is actually movie accurate. At some point during the production of the movie, the blade broke, and they just resoldered it back together to do so, because they were running on a real skinny budget. They didn't really have any money. They only had one glove. So one of the things is the copper stalls is longer. You can see how much longer they are on this one versus the ones I've been making. So here is kind of right there, it's about the same length there. It looks like the middle finger is actually a little bit longer, so I may have to do that. Now I'm gonna have to check on this, the fold right here. I do have to check. I don't see why they would put that there if it's not actually there. That may actually be accurate to the movie, so I'm gonna have to go back and look at the photos. That shouldn't be that hard to duplicate. I'm thinking all you have to do is really just put the rest this over like a some sort of steel rod, hammer it, and then that will give you the bend, and then just kind of work it from there, maybe perhaps with the pliers or whatnot. So the other thing I was actually pondering around in my head is, if you notice the fingers, the tips are rounded, and they kind of have that the way the instructions on my templates say to take a dowel, like a hardwood dowel, and actually round the end. You know, that's why I was so afraid in the beginning, early on stages of doing this stuff, because I really wasn't sure what I was buying, if I'm buying the correct stuff, and I just really didn't think a lot of things through, like buying the aluminum siding for cutting out the blades, not realizing that the soldering doesn't stick to that. You need like it's, so I mean that was early on when I was thinking to just JB weld the blades on, but as I'm getting into this, you know, the soldering, that's the way they did it. There's something, you know, way more special about that than just using JB weld. And also buying that broom handle, that, you know, just the 1 inch, you know, or somewhat 1 inch thick broom handle just for the rounding of the pieces, just things like that, that it was in the end wound up being a waste of money. Good thing it wasn't terribly expensive, but thinking about how to round that finger over, I needed something that could take some hammering to and be in kind of a rounded shape, like the end of a ball peen hammer. Well, right here, these are those CO2 canisters that are off of my airsoft gun. Of course, you'd use an empty one, you wouldn't want to do that to a full one, but there's the perfect rounded end to use. So that's the cool thing, is just trying to find stuff laying around that I could use for this project instead of putting more money into it. But I did invest into the gloves, the leather gloves. I found them online, the proper gloves. In the end, they're a lot cheaper than buying what I'm buying, going to Walmart and buying those $9 a pair that are not actually the correct ones. They're close as they're gonna get out here, but they're not the correct ones. So I found some online. They're really cheap. I think it comes out to like $5 a pair. So I went ahead and did that. So yeah, countdown is here. I'm gonna, this Saturday actually, I'm going out to a birthday dinner for myself. Hey, happy birthday to me. It's actually not officially Saturday, but being that Saturday's like my Friday, that's what I chose to do it. I believe my birthday is actually on Tuesday. So yeah, this is what right now, what I'm into, what's making me happy. So that's just kind of what I've been kind of just messing around with, tinkering around with. So you know, so yeah, I really, my favorite part about all this is I'm constructing all this out of plumbing material, copper pipe and soldering and all this plumbing stuff, and it's really neat to have Cody on board, and really neat to have Cody as a, you know, a help and reference. And I'm really actually finding sweating pipe and fluxing and soldering really interesting. I'm really, that's like, it's really grabbing me. Yeah, I know it's a Freddy Krueger glove, and you know, part of it is the Freddy Krueger thing, but a lot of this part is working with copper. I'm finding that I'm really enjoying working with copper. I love copper, the way it looks, the way you can heat it, and you know, a lot of times you hear that you can't have it both ways. Well, with copper you can. You can heat it up and it becomes pliable, and as you work it and hammer it, it stiffens back up again, and there is the shape you want. So, and then I just love the way it ages. I love the way this stuff ages. I love the way it changes. Water, you know, over just handling it changes it, the smell of it, everything. I mean, I'm not trying to, like, I'm almost like falling in love with it, the copper, but really that's what is beginning to surface with me, is just like, I love working with this copper stuff. And of course, there's a possibility of, you know, being able to share with other people the artistic cool factor of building your own Freddy Krueger glove, because it's possible. This is kind of a neat little project I've started. It's much like where I started with making John Wayne grips. I remember when I started to make John Wayne grips, I had the idea in my head, that notion of like, what if I made a mold and I actually poured this substance that is pre-colored and you know, had something that, I mean, a lot of people thought I was crazy. They said, no, you know, I don't think you can do that. There was a lot of people that when I told them that concept, they were just like, man, that's I don't think you're gonna be able to do that. I don't think it's that easy. It was trial and error. I mean, it took me, you know, I mean, I've been making those grips for 4 years, something like that now, yeah, because it was long before YouTube. I was tinkering around with them, and already when I started YouTube, I was already into making them pretty well. I could pretty much reproduce them. So, and coming up here on my channel, in July of next year already is going to be 3 years on YouTube. Man, where does that time go? So, anyway, on that note, it was pretty nice to wake up this morning and know that you know, election's done, all that. It was kind of a heated moment for a lot of us that are gun owners, gun enthusiasts. You know, that, you know, it's a lot of that, where the Supreme Court was going to wind up and all that. So, but yeah. Anyway, that is it, and that's all the politics you're going to get out of me. I'll see you tomorrow.